the records don't exist anymore. Somebody took the emails. But at one point, I had a brief conversation online with somebody I went to high school with who now has a job that, let's put it this way, would have needed to have some sort of authorization through the Department of State. And whatever the specifics of all of those things are is not the point, except that at some point we had a brief discussion regarding copyright. He had done some things when he was young, when he was still a minor, by the way, that in some milieu were very, very impressive. And I had asked him if he had been able to get them copyrighted. And he told me that he did not have copyrights on them. And then they came up. They came up in between the time when I first contacted him again after many, many years of not talking to him and asked him specifically about the copyright aspect. And they ended up coming up in the public realm. As a matter of fact, somebody that later attempted to run for political office, very high political office, was involved in what would have otherwise been a potential distribution or likeness, a distribution of a likeness associated with those products that he had created formerly. Now, would he consider them that? I don't know. We didn't get to carry the conversation on. We got forestalled when there was a concern about likeness or image being transmitted over email. Let's put it that way. But why? I sent him an information. I sent him a proposal for an approach. This was during the time frame when I understood there was a public comment period during the summer of 2017 specifically that was supposed to address upcoming impending changes to NAFTA. And this is somebody I went to high school with. He was my best friend in high school. And even though he was doing something different than I would have chosen to do with my life, I had no reason to suspect him. I was actually looking forward to his input based on his experience with what I had sent him. At one point, he confirmed he received it. He said he hadn't had time to read it yet. That was years ago, and I never heard from him again. Now, all of the correspondences between he and I, as well as his contact information, is gone. And whatever networks he's a part of that I could otherwise find a way to reestablish contact, I don't have access to. I don't have Twitter. I don't have Facebook. I know, I hear sometimes people talk about how they've been retaliated against. I've had several blogs, email accounts, Facebook profiles, electronic records just completely disappeared from me. And, the ironic thing is that this started happening on that level when I tried to reach out to a former vice presidential candidate. My Facebook was stolen after I tried to contact her. And then after that, more and more and more and more got stolen. And the ironic thing is that they spliced me. And you've got all of these fraudulent duplicates of me that end up appearing in other people's lives on one side of the political spectrum that, to be honest with you, I didn't really agree with. And then you see all kinds of duplicates of me appearing on the other side of the political spectrum with people who honestly I didn't really agree with. But if you're prevented from any kind of civic participation or ordinary political process, how are you supposed to be able to address those grievances, especially while you're being electronically tortured, and especially while your efforts at reporting on very significant crimes are stolen and used in even worse crimes? I mean, is anybody ever going to answer that question? Why can't I contact him? See, I understand that me and my high school class were used as some sort of special asset by the then President of the United States. And it was expected that we would be made available for the use of the later candidates for the office of president, that included, among others, who at the time was the First Lady. I have no idea what the political perspectives are of the people I went to high school with. I can't know. I'm not allowed to know. We are not allowed to even talk to each other to organize. They're not even organized. We're not even allowed to talk to each other, are we? At least me. I'm not allowed to talk to them. I'm not allowed to talk to my family, including my grandpa. See, I'm just going to let you know, all you old men, especially you old Texas men, you're not my grandfather. I'm my own old man. When you think that you are able to establish some sort of in rem jurisdiction or some sort of helmsmanship, I'm my own old man. And if you came in on my ship, I'd shoot you. Do you understand? And this is the most disappointing thing. None of you should be wasting oxygen. You murdered my grandfather, my actual grandfather, on April 4th of 2017. My grandfather was murdered on a day when I should have been giving a presentation to people in what wasn't my time, even though temporarily, my community, and what otherwise would be my community right now, about how we could have engaged in particular kind of organizing model that would have allowed for us to recover what had been dispossessed of us at that time and to incorporate in a manner that would prevent against the theft of our intellectual property as well as attempts to try to extort us into cooperating with crime, including organized crime that was illegally attempting to claim us as a business asset of some other company that never acquired the appropriate legal protections but intended instead to defame, slander, and dispossess us by having us illegally designated as being mentally incompetent or somehow obligated by virtue of being forced out of our houses and remanded to facilities that were being, among other things, financed by the Department of Homeland Security when it came to food. But I didn't get to do that because I was kidnapped. And I didn't get to go to the hearing to protest that kidnapping because they wouldn't let me out. They wouldn't let me out to go to the hearing at the courthouse. And they murdered my grandfather. And I had all these seniors trying to do what? You didn't get away with murdering my grandfather so you could try to redistribute him to your senior health care plan. Did you expect me to fuck my grandfather like you expected me to fuck my father? That's a literal question